Still on the subject of political violence, Tesla has seen its share of hate, of course, since Elon Musk joined up with Donald Trump. Fanatics like Owen McIntyre have been arrested for firebombing a Tesla dealership, but now that person has been let out of custody awaiting trial in order to, get this, allow sex change treatments to continue. For his part, Musk says these types of threats are nothing new.
Do you guys feel like you're putting yourself at risk by doing this because you're stirring up so much hostility by these people ripping us off?
100%. Well, we don't need to speculate about that. You can see online in the protests that they make that very clear. I mean, I've been hanged in effigy many times, and there have been people that have actively advocated at these violent protests for my death, and also advocated for the death of the people at DOGE.
I think the young folks of us have gotten email threats from reporters and the public alike.
Despite the acts of hatred, vandalism, and crime, Musk says he has no regrets about doing the work that they're doing for and with President Trump.
Do you regret coming out and supporting President Trump?
Yes, no.
If President Trump had not won, I think the Democrat campaign to import vast numbers of illegal voters would have succeeded. And they would have naturalized vast numbers of illegals during the sort of Kamala regime. And they would have turned America into a one-party state from which we could never escape.
So a few things to unpack here. Alicia, there's a media angle again, because these are interviews that Musk is doing on this network, which is great. But when it comes to a lot of the threats, and not just threats, acts of violence, it seems to be not the blaring headline story that it might be if certain roles were reversed.
Well, yeah, and it's not treated as alarmingly as we're treating it, as it should be, especially when you talk about these Tesla attacks. But then we also connect these. If we talk about this teacher in Maine who put out this message on Facebook, and then you talk about the attacks on Tesla, the dealerships, and also the people who own Teslas or are just trying to go to work, I think there are people on what we are seeing, and I think it's backed up by what we're seeing in the media, is that the people on the extreme side of the left are starting to expect this from themselves, this kind of behavior. And so they have normalized it, and it's becoming ever more violent when it's coming from a high school teacher, and the fact that this teacher right now still may have a job. That should not be up for discussion right now, because you have students who on Monday will be going to class. What are those parents supposed to do in this situation? Do they approach the school? What do they do? But I do believe it's becoming way too normal.
Joe, the one story that we mentioned there, you had someone who has been accused and arrested and charged with firebombing a Tesla dealership, and a judge bought the defense's argument that that person should be walking free on the streets pending trial because the person has ADHD, depression, and gender dysphoria, and going to jail and being behind bars might interrupt or disrupt so-called gender-affirming care. Wow. That's what a judge accepted and ruled.
What's it going to take during these firebombings of Tesla dealerships where somebody actually gets killed or seriously hurt? Remember, in Oregon, there was a dealership there that was shot up twice, actual bullets. You know, what if there were some workers in the building? I can't even believe that we have judges that are allowing people like this to walk free. And you heard this counter argument, of course, when conservatives were boycotting Bud Light. And they were saying, well, you did the same thing with Bud Light. No, actually, at last check, conservatives weren't firebombing Bud Light factories, and they weren't vandalizing Bud Light trucks. But this is allowed because judges are allowing it, but more importantly, find me a prominent Democrat who has come out and said, this is wrong, this should stop, this is an American company with 125,000 workers. They won't do it because that will look like it's support of Elon Musk, when it's really just common sense and supporting American workers in a company that has produced a lot of jobs and a lot of great vehicles.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.